Right, so this is the sort of second day after the install. So everything looks alright, but there have been some snagging issues. And I'm just going to record those now. Now, the guy who did the fitting reckons he sorted those, so let's just have a look, shall we? Now, there were a couple of chips to the pelmet, which he said he'd sort out. Just take that off there, look. Incidentally, I've cleaned all of these cabinets inside and out because they were filthy. So, don't know whether you can see that. That's rough. Doesn't look very good, does it? Let's put it that way. Okay. I will take some better photographs of this with my phone. Got a better camera. There was another issue with the same pelmet over here because he tried to cut the mitre the wrong way. So I don't know whether you can see down there, look, but we can see where the guy made a mistake trying to cut the mitre, and obviously he's tried to glue it back on again. So he's put some of the colour fill on there. I still think personally it looks a mess. Incidentally, the cornice is actually, it's quite loose. Look at that. Is that acceptable? So there was another issue. Now let's get some feedback from people watching this video. So the cornice is ended at the wall and the pelmet is ended there. And we can see there's about a 40 odd millimetre gap. Now, at no point did he say, is that really what you want? Does that look right to you guys and gals or not? I think it looks terrible. Also, with this flyover here, there was an unreasonable sized gap between the flyover and this wall unit. So he has put some colour fill in there, you know, which is fair enough. And it certainly looks better than what it did. And I've also asked him to put some on this side as well, just to make sure that it doesn't look odd. Now, the drawer fronts, there we go, look. Basically, they're just hanging off on one side, and he told me that it's a problem with the manufacturing. Now, does that seem like a reasonable excuse for why these keep coming off? I'm just wondering whether he hasn't adjusted it properly. So that's something which I'm going to have a look at a bit later. Should that hang off like that or not? If you employed somebody who's supposed to be a skilled kitchen fitter to fit your kitchen and the drawer was hanging off like that, would you be happy? Would you think that they'd done a professional job? So what happens when you do this one here, look? Now, this was the same situation yesterday. Now, it looks as if that may well have been addressed. So actually, it looks as if that one has been adjusted properly. Incidentally, when I just switched the camera off, I went to open this drawer again, and this bloody side's come out, look. So, moving on here then. Bear in mind, we had a look at the one on the top here, look. So they're both corner units, L shape. Wall unit obviously, base unit. Now what's the obvious thing that you see when you open this up? Could it possibly be the fact that he screwed this to the carcass rather than fixing it to the inside of this door, like this one here, look? I mean, that's clearly wrong, isn't it? This is right because I have a picture. I went into the showroom a little while ago just to sort of double check. I mean, I'm sure I was right anyway, but look, so that's a wall unit, that's how it should be done. This is a base unit. Now the whole point of having one of these large corner units is to make sure that you can access, you know, you can put the bigger stuff at the back of the unit there, look. That clearly is getting in the way. So he's done that wrong. Would you be happy with that? It's just really bizarre. So that needs fitting with a couple of these plates. Now I don't know whether he's done it because he screwed something up here or not. I'm not quite sure, but I need to have a look at that. Okay, moving on to the base unit. There you go, look. Guys and gals, would you be happy with that? Has that been fitted properly or not? It hasn't, has it? I mean, am I being unreasonable and reasonably picky by pointing that out? Or do you think it's a point which needs to be made? Does that indicate a professional installation to you or not? Incidentally, this doesn't always close properly, so those hinges, it's a minor thing, they just need a slight adjustment down here. Look at all that mess from the adhesive, look. Do you think it's satisfactory to leave it like that? So a washing machine is going under here. Also, when you look at where the handles have been fitted, it's just sloppy. Now, there's a few pencil marks. I don't know how easy it's going to be seen, but there's a few pencil marks. Let's have a look. So, can you see that pen mark or pencil mark on there? Also on there. Would you expect to see that? That's not too, that's all right actually. On here, can you see the marks on there, look? And on there? Would you expect to see that? Would you say that's satisfactory? Or would you say that's poor workmanship? Let me know. Now, there's a scratch mark on there. You know, I mean, look, this is a high gloss kitchen, so I know it's going to be difficult to work with rather, but if there's an issue with it and you don't think you could do it, why would you do it? So it's okay. Yeah, I've tried to scrub those pencil marks off on there, look. There's one at the bottom there, look, if you can see it. So there, you know, some of the issues which I've identified which need addressing as part of the snagging. Now, I'm not happy with that pelmet. I think that looks absolutely piss poor. I just don't think the work's been done to a high enough standard, to be honest with you. But one of the biggest issues was the electrics. This house was rewired by a professional electrician, so, you know, everything was done correctly, got all the paperwork and all the rest of it. But he told me that it wasn't. He told me that it hadn't been done properly. Now, this is a person who is not a qualified electrician. This is somebody who said that his colleague would do the electrical work. At no point did he say he wasn't qualified, he's just a DIYer, same as himself basically. He just said that his colleague would be doing all the electrical and all the plumbing work. I assumed, obviously wrongly, that he'd be a qualified electrician, because with something like electrics and gas, I mean, look, it needs to be done properly, doesn't it? You need somebody who knows what they're doing. You need some experience, somebody who's skilled. I assumed, clearly wrongly, so, you know, I've got to accept a little bit of naivety in that regard, that that was the case. So initially then, he told me that there was a big issue with the rewiring. The guy told me that when they've connected the oven, the hob had to be connected over there, and because it's an electric hob, that the plug would be on show because it needed to be plugged in there. He said, "We're happy with that." I says, "Well, it was not my understanding that any plug would be on show." So he said, "Well, look, what we need to do then, we need to chase out the wall, and we need to put another socket down here somewhere." Initially they were going to put it at the back of the oven. I says, "Well, don't put it there. It might be okay. I know you've got a panel here, got a space at the back there, but don't put it there. How about putting it inside this unit here?" So they chased out the wall and fixed a socket where that blanking panel is. When they'd done that, the guy then told me that actually you can't do that, because if you have the oven and the hob, you're going to overload that socket. So therefore, they'd been, and at this point it become clear that the person who was doing electrical work wasn't qualified, and that they were acting on information or advice being provided by a third party who was clearly a friend or acquaintance of this kitchen fitter. And also he stressed that this person had 10 years experience as a qualified electrician. And he told me that what they would need to do would therefore be to put in an extra fused spur. So the spur is basically just a cable that goes to a socket with a fuse on it. So he said that we'd need two. He told me categorically, he told me that there weren't any other options. The only way to do it was to do that. And at this point I'm starting to think, I'm sure this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Anyway, at that point I said to the chap, I want certificates to say that the work that's been done has been done safely. I need these works to be signed off. I need a certificate. So anyway, started kicking up about it and whining and moaning, started being arsy about it. And I said, the only way this is going to proceed is if I have these certificates, because I need to know, I need to be confident that the work has been undertaken by a skilled and professional electrician who is registered or certified to do the work. Anyway, so that prompted him to make a flurry of calls to his mate, and his mate, the electrician, whether it was another electrician or the same one, I'm not entirely sure, because this one had 40 years experience apparently, and he wrote out 3 certificates. And this led to another problem. Are these certificates invalid? Because this person doesn't have any registration number, he's not registered with the main electricity bodies, and I was told that he was self-employed, which shouldn't make any difference, should it? If you're self-employed, you know, presumably you're going to have insurance, and you still can have the appropriate certification or registration. So 3 certificates, 1 for the hob, 1 for the oven, and 1 for the additional socket. So the 1 for the additional socket, you may notice that it's dated 2025 when we're actually in 2024, so that doesn't inspire confidence, does it? So look, it's just lots of issues. I mean, I've sent emails to the relevant regulatory bodies saying, look, you know, what are the requirements to fill in one of these minor work certificates? Can it be done by a person such as this, even though they're not registered with yourself? Blah, blah. I've asked the obvious questions. I think these certificates are invalid. I don't think they're going to cover me if I want to rent this house out or sell it. I don't think they're valid. And also the other thing is the fact that this chap was actually just certifying the work of the kitchen fitter. He didn't actually do it himself. So I think that these certificates are invalid and not worth the paper they're written on. And that's always one of the issues, isn't it, when you ask other people to do the work. And that's why I try and do as much as I can myself, because You're relying on people, their advice, their guidance. You know, the problem is that you have to have a certain amount of knowledge and experience yourself to be able to ascertain whether or not they're doing the job properly. And therein lies the problem. If you have that experience, if you have that knowledge, then why don't you just do your job yourself? But sometimes life gets in the way. Sometimes you don't have the time. Sometimes you just don't have the skills, and therefore you must rely on other people to do the work. So anyway, basically we're at a little bit of a stalemate. It started to get a bit aggressive. The guy was getting aggressive and trying to intimidate me. That ain't gonna work, no chance. So I'm just waiting for some replies back about the electric work, and we'll see how we go from here. So I've paid half of the agreed price, but clearly things have changed since then. The snagging list, which I presented him with, the work hasn't been rectified properly, and there's some other issues which we've sort of discussed really. So anyway, look, I'm starting to bang on a little bit now, but this is just one of the issues, isn't it? When you employ somebody to do work, even if they come with recommendations. But anyway, so we're going to see how we go, and we'll of course keep you updated. But so this is the installation. It does look nice superficially, but when you start to ask a few more questions, when you inspect it in a little bit more detail, then it becomes clear that all is not as it should be. So the issue isn't resolved yet, but hopefully we can resolve it in an amicable and respectful manner, you know, rather than it just things going belly up and starting to get ugly. Anyway, you take care. Thanks for dropping by. Bye bye.